In a world full of misery, rage, and insomnia, there's a place you can go to just unwind. All you have to do is take a long walk into the mountains, and just past the black house, the secret garden, you'll find a small cabin. Inside that cabin, you'll find the Hole in the Wall Book Club. So now that the dream catcher's hung and the fire started, we invite you to pull up a chair and join the Losers Club as we explore the world of slurping on people's necks and serious men. This one's for me. Don't you eyeball my orange. Hello, and welcome to Hole in the Wall Book Club. I'm Anthony.
I'm Alex.
And we're here to talk about Salem's Lot. I'm trying not to spoil how bad this part was. Did I do it? Tweet now. How convinced were you that this section was great?
Well, it finally confirmed there is no climax to this book.
Right?
There is no point where I thought, there we go. And you might think it's when Barlow dies. It is not.
I mean, technically there still could be a climax. This could be the only book in existence that is a climax in the epilogue. It could
maybe
happen. We haven't read
I
that
guess
bit
maybe.
yet. But yeah,
Well, 51 and then the epilogue.
Right. So we finished up chapter 50, which...
So the last 25 of the 50 subparts.
I'm going to bitch about formatting again for a second, because I'm okay with variable chapter lengths. I'm okay if, like, a chapter is half the size of another chapter. This is double the size of the second largest chapter. Just, bam, here you go. And now have another tiny chapter in an epilogue. We're done. What? Why?
It's clear it's that naming convention you did for the chapters.
Yeah.
That was actually like the master layout system.
This one was the lot, right?
Was it?
I think it was.
I thought it was like Ben in something or something weird like that. Oh, wait, no, Ben in something is 51.
Yeah, this was Ben and Mark.
Yeah.
The lot. Yeah,
okay,
the lot 4.
So it was just like the other lot, but the biggest.
Right. And we start out, we bounce around town again, seeing people die. Because we're in the nighttime now.
What is the very start of this? I forget.
It's Miss Coogan in Callahan, which I actually love this scene. I think it was at the drugstore, like Callahan. We start with Miss Coogan thinking about like, oh wow, it's real slow tonight. And her first customer comes in and it's Callahan. She doesn't recognize him because he's in street clothes. And she like makes a comment about how she's never seen him outside his priest costume, I think is the word. It was a weird word. Callahan is broken. I got some terrible things to say here. Like, Callahan asks for a ticket on the bus. She asks what bus, and he's like, the soonest one. And when it comes down to where are you going, as far as it goes. And I think he ends up buying a ticket to New York. We get this all from Miss Coogan's perspective, and she is just creeped out. Like, there's a bit where she's like, if he touches me, I'm going to scream. And Callahan tells her basically, get out of town. Leave. The town's gone bad. Was it Salem's Lot has gone bad? And then just like stumbles out to sit on the bus, like outside, because she's like, you can't wait here. You creep me the fuck out. Get out. The terrible things I'm going to say is if I ever succumb completely to psychosis and like I'm just broken forever, I hope that I can be this ominous when I do. Because if I'm going to have to break, might as well just be the creepiest possible moment.
There's this counters really well with, I forget how much later in there when they bump into they go to the church to get the holy water.
Mm-hmm.
And they bump into his housekeeper.
Right.
That'll make her she'll put on a pretty grand show about the quality of person. That's the thing. Actually, that little section annoyed me because it implied that even outside of himself, someone had a fairly strong feeling that he was that thing. And
she paints him like St. Cuthbert for D&D players out there.
Yeah. No, it's. I keep feeling like very weird little thoughts of that Stephen King has dominate instances of action in the book that in turn cause all these bizarre disruptions.
Right.
Like, he confronted Barlow, sees the thing hiding in his closet, and I feel like King was just like, yeah, because the only time anyone's ever broken is when they're a kid. So it's the thing that happened to him when he was a kid that'll beat him. And it's just like this really, that moment could have flown, but then when we bump immediately into his housekeeper thinking that, you're given all the evidence in the world that Father Callahan was the person you saw when you saw him ranting about wanting to go against the great evil.
Right.
And the Callahan you bump into at Mark's parents' house, who gets turned into a fool because it looks like the thing in his closet, is just... This book felt like characters didn't actually have a personality, but rather were sort of an archetype that could keep changing.
Well, they were characters from Dracula. We got Helsing.
That's the thing. Like in an empty vessel sense, he plugged them all in there. But these characters don't seem like they have anything true enough to them that by the end of the book, I even could call Ben Mears the Ben Mears I knew at the beginning. And yeah, you could say a traumatic event has a traumatic effect on someone, but there's nothing there. Ben Mears came in. Everyone was like playing cheesy village character, and then they're confronted with evil, and then they all just break in random ways, and you're like, okay. It seems a little forced at moments because you're given nothing but evidence of the quality of Callahan, and then he's beaten by something goofy, and you're
right.
Like, maybe if you had seeded that somewhere, but as of now, you just pulled that out of thin air to beat Callahan. You actually had to beat a good guy, but something you just made up.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we didn't get any hinting at all to this. What was that weird name? Damn it! I should have written that down. For the closet dude. Until it happened, weird it was just like, oh, he reminds me of this guy. Let's jump into a flashback to show you that guy.
And this isn't just going to spook him. This is going to rob him of his faith.
Right.
You can't spring up this thing and then have it destroy Father Callahan all in one scene.
That's kind of how this book has been throughout the whole thing, though. Everything important happens in the background always.
Like with the vampire, the very which. I kind of get the feeling he was trying to use the mechanic, the storytelling of putting it in the background to represent the actual nature of it occurring in the background. But I think what he did in messing that up is he didn't give us the foreground's perspective enough.
Right.
Why didn't we? If you're trying to spook us with shit in the background, why weren't we following Mabel around? The person who until the end of the book is safe.
Right.
Why weren't we following half the people who don't encounter it so that we can see the suspicious stuff?
Yep.
It's very bizarre to tell a story where you're trying to make the town slowly convert in the background and creep you out, while simultaneously always putting you exactly in the hot seat.
Yep.
You can't keep showing my room as the reader being repeatedly invaded by vampires, and then expect me 2/3 of the way through the book get spooked when the town gets turned into vampires. I'm done. You've already given me the cow. I don't need the milk anymore.
It undermines Barlow.
Yeah.
Because Barlow...
He's not even that spooky by the time they get to him to kill him.
Yeah, he's been set up as this
King has to tell
mastermind.
you how amazing he is, but when you bump into him in the story, he just looks like another vampire.
Yeah, he's been set up as this mastermind, always thinking 3 steps ahead. And frankly, we're going to talk about it when we get to the meeting with Barlow.
Yeah, this is a lot, but there's actually not.
Where they end up finding Barlow is fine, but it really could have been, oh, well, let's just pick a house, kill the people in it, and go to the basement. There didn't need to be a plan. It was just like needle in a haystack, pick a house. But I'll rant about that more later.
This is where we get the mild fate system that you get. Because you win. Well, when we get to the moment when they have to get into where Barlow's hidden, we get to watch Ben go Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
So,
but like, because everything Barlow did in the happens in the background, he doesn't look like a tactician at all. Like, what planning did he do? He killed a dog. Or he got a dog killed. He bought a bunch of roses. Maybe decades ago, hung out in a little kid's closet.
Which feels like that's just not true, but you're kind of given that impression.
But maybe he was being hypnotized. Who knows?
Don't they make a comment? Don't they make a comment at some point about how a place not far from this town was kind of awful, and it might have been, I forget who says it. But I think it's towards the end. Someone makes a comment about how...
Yeah, there was that... he was reading that from that book. It was when we were in one of the research in the hospital room things.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's that... We got that scene later where Mike was looking through the book. And it was... I think in Virginia... I don't know. It was a close by-ish state. That was...
I don't remember.
But I think... I mean, Barlow came over on a boat. Like, he's from out out of country.
Yeah.
You can't just make him a master tactician by telling us that he is. Like, it doesn't add up. Like, if he's done any planning, it probably slowed him down. They just need to bite people.
As a scene we will come to eventually that irritated the hell out of me, these are one of his tactician moments that I was just like, this is borderlining on, like, Coyote and Roadrunner level stupid at this point. Calling it tactician.
I thought you'd like that.
I would if that was the intent. But
See,
what makes this so bad is that it's trying to be intense, but it's not.
They're hiding in this cave, and then you find out the only way to get into the cave is to take paint and paint a door on the wall to open. No.
That would actually would have been more interesting.
Yeah, that would get some cool magic.
Yeah.
But we jump from that to Charlie Rhodes. He's the bus driver, who I believe we've seen a couple times before. We got an establishing scene with him where
he likes kicking kids off the bus for pretty much anything you can possibly imagine, and he loves referencing when he was in the war.
Yep. And he wakes up because someone is laying on the horn of his bus, and basically
it's a trap.
Yep. And
it's the vampiric amplification of the kids messing with him like they always did, except now they're in the bus jacking it up. They knock out like 6 or 7 of the windows.
Yep.
He gets on the bus, goes, "No kids," and then realizes they're...
And the whole time, we're getting his inner monologue. This is one of these, like, you're not supposed to feel bad for this death. It's like, Stephen King is like, I want violence, but I don't want people to feel bad about it. Let's show how terrible this person is right before they die. Because he's actively excited. He's like, I'm just going to sneak up on him, and I'm going to get them kids. He's pissed.
It's sort of what you saw earlier. Yeah, you can see the animosity towards the kids now, like, ramped up, yeah.
And then all the vampire kids eat him.
But yeah.
I don't know if I got the impression he died, but
I think so.
Yeah.
I think at this point, as this town's kind of being populated, some people are just dying. So they're just getting torn up.
So what we did get from that is both the Griffin kids are definitively vampires.
Yeah.
We saw them in Straw last time, but yeah, now for sure. Because they were there, munching down. We haven't seen...
Which I believe surprises him, because doesn't he say he hadn't seen them in... Or wait, was it them that don't ride his bus? He makes a comment about how, like, 2 of the kids don't even ride his bus.
Yeah, I think it was them.
And that's what surprised him. He first is surprised by kids he doesn't recognize being on his bus.
And then he sees Danny, and he's like, and he's supposed to be dead. I went to his funeral to hate people.
Yeah.
He gets eaten. It's a feel-good moment. God, and then we get the quickest section, where... we are told that Anne dies, and the orderly tells people to turn off the alarm because she's dead. And we cut out. She just died of exhaustion, I guess?
I guess.
Yep. And then we jump from there to the boarding house. And, God, this bit was sad. So we are getting from Ava's perspective, and she wakes up to what she thinks is a dream. She's like, and once again, it's the whole vampire sneaking in. I guess they have the ability to alter your perception of reality.
I guess that's in the hypnotizing somehow realm.
But I guess they also no longer need to look you in the eyes.
Yeah.
Because what happens in this is basically they sit at the window of the boarding house and fool around in full view of the street, but she thinks it's during the Great Fire. She, like, sees... the cinders coming down.
Yeah, something like that.
She like makes mention of like seeing his hand on her skin, but not seeing it in the mirror. It's like, are you hypnotizing her?
I guess he could be looking at her in the eyes in a sense at this point. At this point, if she's doing that.
I mean, but he's standing behind her.
I guess the only thing maybe had to initiate it.
I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but he noms down, turns her into a vampire. And is it there that we get, like, Barlow himself comes in and they drag her and shove her in a cabinet? Is it there? It might be a little later, but we find eventually she gets shoved in a cabinet, not to turn into a vampire, the whole shove them in a dark space thing.
Yeah.
And then we jump into, like, a general town check-in, and frankly, I don't remember who we looked at, but it was a bunch of people who were still alive. We saw Bill still alive. It wasn't much in that. I'm actually gonna look that up real quick. I don't think it was anything important because I don't remember seeing any of these people again later. Like, we did find out that Mabel's still alive, and it's one of those kind of more poetic, where it's more
Reggie
scene
Sawyer,
setting.
Corey Bryant.
That was right after this. We check in on Parkins, Mabel, and Bill Norton. We get the repetition of the this town's gone bad, I think, from Parkins at that point. It was just to set the tone in the middle of the pacing in this book is terrible. Like, the tone has been set, bro.
Okay, so then 31 is just the cheater dude showing back up and killing husband man, which is another instance of us going, he was a bad dude anyway.
Yeah, like, we had enough of those. Because it's once again, and we do it the same way. We're getting the bad person's perspective.
Yeah.
We get Reggie waking up because someone's pounding on the door.
Slips out of bed, grabs his gun, I think, or something, goes to the door, sees it's Sawyer. Is that who the...
What really got me at first was that he didn't open up the door. He didn't know who it was. He just yelled, "Well, come on in." And then the pounding immediately stopped. I loved that bit. I did enjoy that, like, you fucked up. Don't ever invite someone in your door. Ever. Just step to the side. It's their decision.
Well, it's interesting, because then, obviously, he comes in, and he goes to aim the gun, and it's just another long written encounter of a vampire person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so horrified, but I don't know why. And then he toys with him, your wife. I'm going to hit that. And, I'm going to keep taunting you to shoot me, and then you're going to shoot me, and the bullets are going to hit me and do nothing, and then I'm going to kill you.
Yep, Bonnie comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Bonnie's horrified.
At first.
Yeah.
Because I believe once he begins to hypnotize her, it then freaks him out as Bonnie seems to almost be accepting him, and then they kill.
I did enjoy the description of the bullets going through the body, because, like, it explains that, like, the clothes are already so tattered, they basically just fall apart, and... It was something along the lines of, it was like his skin wasn't solid, like it was made of the most sheer fabric.
Okay,
that was a cool bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good bits, but
yeah.
It really comes down to it's just not enough happens
well.
over a huge period of time.
Yeah.
It's so much setup to just... let's get through the events so we can... Because I think...
Yeah.
We got to talk about the Barlow bit.
Yeah, we got to get all the... So, the next is...
This is when we jump back to Callahan.
Yeah, so Callahan basically gets on the bus, and I think he's given crap for...
It was a very long scene where he basically bribes the bus driver to pick him up some alcohol and let him drink it on the bus.
Right, okay.
He pays like $30 for a bottle.
And then eventually they resolve it at, you better not make a thing out of this.
And we get a lot of actually pretty cool description from Callahan, but... all the cool description, all the good bits are kind of lost because I'm just like, I just need something to happen. But I do want to note, like, he's talking about the terrible taste of the blood in his mouth. And he starts with, like, non-taste descriptors, like terrible and just, like, vile. And then near the end, as he's getting longer and longer from alcohol, he starts talking about it as, like, the terrible sweetness. And it was just kind of cool that, like, near the end of the section, we got, like, a bit of the pleasure in there with it. I just thought that was a really cool description.
Yeah.
I've given up on the spook notes for this book because there isn't enough.
Yeah.
But, like, if you had to, I mean, it's worth reading. And then,
this is back to Ben and Mark.
It's back to the morning, so it's our good guys team.
Right.
Turn. Like, initiative has switched hands. God, it was... This whole thing was just... We were talking about this a bit off podcast. You mentioned this. Where it's just back and forth, but not in any exciting way.
It reads like goofing off, the book.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. Like, these people... I think it's also partially what kills the tension. I think Stephen King probably... This book, up to a certain point, actually does the job I think it's trying to do. I would say up to... Matt bumping into Mike and the ring thing. I'd say probably up to that point, it was slow. Yeah. It was sluggish. But as far as plot, we had gotten up to sort of the threshold of our fear, really approaching the vampire thing. It's right after that point. I mean, almost exactly after that point, because this is where Matt's put in the hospital. And the second Matt is in the hospital, it is this constant, the town's already to be destroyed. This is now or never. Doom, By the way, let's waste like 7 or 8 days back and forthing, never making up our mind, freaking out over Barlow, goofing off, getting ourselves killed because we did something stupid.
It's like every character is telling you, you need to hurry, but that is not how anything's paced. It's like, do or die right now. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to spend half of tomorrow driving across town to buy flowers.
To watch one of us die in some wacky Looney Tunes way. And it's just like, oh, you fell down steps and died. Oh, you got yanked up by a vampire and died. Oh, you tripped and fell on a spike and died. And you're just kind of like...
Yeah, but basically, they wake up, they talk about the plan for the day. The team at this point being Matt, still hospital bound. He's our health thing, doing all them research. We got Cody, the doctor, Ben, and Mark. All these like just 3 and 4 letter names are killing me, man. I can't. So, I don't know if we talked about this in the last time. At the very end of the last section we read, after Mark kind of gets back and is talking with Matt. Jesus Christ. After Mark gets back and is talking with Matt, they discover that there's some blue chalk that was under Barlow's fingers.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why Mark saw this, but whatever.
We didn't mention this, but
at this point, Mark is still a computer.
Yeah.
So, and they basically go through this like, okay, the schools don't use that kind, blah, blah, blah. They eventually come to, it's in the old elementary school that in a couple years is going to be shut down. They're only using 1 floor of it. We think they're on the upper floors. All the windows are boarded up, and that's their plan. Their plan for the day was this the marking part?
No, they're actually, well, I know they end by, they ultimately hit up Mark's first here.
Right.
They go throw the tarp over, check to see if they happen to know what happened to Ben.
Right. They need to go, they're going to go make steaks there as well.
Yeah, and make steaks. Because his dad has a tool thing down there. Yeah.
So basically big team huddle. We can't hit the school till 3:00 at least because there's kids there and we're, yeah. And they do acknowledge something I was kind of wondering about, where I believe they point out like, hey, everyone understands right now that like, even if we win, we might go to jail for murder, right? Okay, cool. We're all on the same page. Even you, young child, we're dragging into this. Okay, let's do this. Break. I just want to point that out. At least they got that like on the table. Hello, welcome back to Hole in the Wall Book Club. We took a break. I don't know why. I could have just edited it back together without that, but I figured it'd be more jarring that way. So, yeah. Let's jump back into it with the most important question. Alex, would you like an orange?
No, I'm good.
One of these days.
Maybe.
I should have remembered where we were before I started this up. Like, this is entirely in my hands.
Oh, we did.
Mm-hmm. Barlow's store.
Ah, yes. So it's they planned, and they're heading to Mark's. On the way to Mark's, they stop at Barlow's store because Ben goes, why not? Maybe he's held up in there. They get in there. They break in. They get in there. Oh, there's closed signs everywhere. Closed for the week till further notice. They go in. They get in there. They find a big old box. Ben has his inner monologue moment of, this is Barlow, I'm going to end him the way he made me end Susan. They crack it open. They see that it's, what's his name?
Mike Ryerson.
Yeah, Ryerson.
Our first adult vampire.
Yeah. They find it's Mike Ryerson's face. It suddenly dawns on them, okay, not Barlow, what do? Well, we don't have steaks. Okay, well, we need to go to Mark's to make steaks. So they actually just pull the box back closed, seal it back up, and leave.
I gotta say, it took me a while to grasp this scene because Mike is described as was a pallid dead face.
Dead moon pallid face.
Right. And for some reason my mind just decided, wait, Mike's dead? Not like vampire dead. I knew he was a vampire. I thought he'd been like killed as a vampire and was just dead now. And I was like, are we ever going to explain this? And I was real hung up on it.
Well, there's an even dumber moment in this moment. And they stopped to kill Barlow if Barlow happened to be there and realized they had no stakes.
Right.
So finding Mike and then realizing they couldn't do anything about it was doubly idiotic because they couldn't do anything about it if it was Barlow.
Yep.
They're like, we're on our way literally to go make steaks. Let's stop before we make steaks and check and see if this vampire is here. Oh, wait, we don't have steaks. This is the kind of team dynamic we've been hinting at that makes this story so absurd. King likes making people look dumb. Don't get me wrong. There are moments of just like, that's just the guy being dumb, and that's why that happened. But this is like, we just got done calling Matt Van Helsing.
Yep.
And then we have this bumbling group of fools. And I know that they're average people. These are not actual vampire hunters hardened through centuries.
You know what? We're allowed to pick on Matt for this. We are. 100% Matt at least, because he is the one who is like, Barlow's insidious wit, but I understand him like a Minecraft Holmes. We're allowed to make fun of him. He set himself up for it. If Matt was sitting here, I would slap him across the face.
Well, it doesn't even help because you're almost giving the impression that Matt's constant souping up the mind game was somehow their anchor to believing their own bullshit. Like, Matt was letting them have the confidence to think they had some plan that was going to win. And then they just crumble into a bag of tears, essentially, when Matt... Well, it's coming up. But, there's no guide, and just elderly man to guide us. So let's just sit in a corner and cry.
This team falls apart quick.
No, yeah. And then it somehow resolves in the most okay way.
Yeah. Because they go from here, they get to Mark's house, and they're like, Father Callahan's not here. I didn't really expect him to be here, hanging out at the house with Barlow all night. The fact that they were even mildly like, oh, he's not here. Like, why did you think he would be here of all places? They do find his broken cross, and I think they use like a tarp or drapes or something. They cover
drapes.
Up Mark's parents.
In the car ride, Ben promises to Mark that he'll cover his parents up.
Yeah. And then...
Which is relevant later, because that'll happen after, at the end. He comes... Wait, go ahead.
Yeah. So, they're going down to the basement to use Mark's dad's lathe to make steaks. There's a bunch of scrap wood, and they're going to lay them all in the steaks. And then we get Cody and Ben deciding, hey, let's have a quick crisis of faith. But, like, one we can wrap up in, like, within 8 pages. Just a quick one. They kind of the breaking point is this, like, are we really using scrap wood in a lathe to fight vampires? And I get, like, there was a moment where it was a decent, like, the absurdity of the situation thing. Except,
it was honestly...
Not 30 pages ago, maybe. We just had a crisis of faith.
It was honestly a moment where you normally may have expected in the story both characters to have made that point and then maybe have laughed at it. Sort of a dark humor element to it. Like, look at the goofy thing we're having to do to actually stop it.
Right.
That's kind of the issue with these characters. I don't know what you're latching on to with them. They're not really relatable. I mean,
right.
Would you really say that any character latched onto you as like a person that didn't seem weirdly... They didn't seem a product of the story, like, to make them... Like, no one seemed very real. And then, furthermore, they're not even necessarily archetypal enough to latch onto, like your Tommy from the first book. There was enough there.
The archetype of heartthrob. Subcategory.
The guy who obviously means well, does well, honest, does something nice, and it backfires because in King's universe, cosmic evil just dicks on people. And so on. In this book, there's fate. God, there's fate in this book.
But when there needs to be only to explain plot holes. Like,
exactly.
Wait, why did we fall in love in a week?
You could say, well, that might be the motivation that kept Ben to maybe care when it happens, but you don't have any reason to think that. Like, he makes that repeated thing again. Like, when I saw Mark, when I looked into his eyes on the porch, it felt like the same way when I met Susan. And you're like, to what end?
Are you
like to what?
Give this kid the Shining, Ben? Not cool.
I don't want to get too weird with it, but there are moments leading all the way up to the end of this.
I know which moment you're talking about.
A couple moments, especially like we're actually just coming up to. Actually, I think we might have passed it because it's specifically wording when Ben gets up and he's awoken by Mark whispering "morning" in his ear. Okay, whatever. It'll wake you up. But it's like that, and you'll see several more moments like this where in a normal situation I'd be fine. But unfortunately, I'm reading a story by an author who likes weird things happening to kids as a plot device.
Yeah.
And Ben and Mark's relationship seems a little weird by the end. It just seems a little weird. I won't go so far as to jump the ship for no reason. But it's a little weird. And it's weird because King writes it as if the weird moments are unprovoked. there could be moments where these things are like, okay, yeah, right, sure.
Right.
But he plops them in the weirdest spots, so you're just like, why would you do that? Why would
Right.
you say it at that moment? What are you doing?
Just, nothing.
Yeah.
Just prepping the children of tomorrow for the shining future.
For the Institute.
Yeah, that's it. It's all the long game. God. Though, the Institute, a spoiler for the Institute, press that skip ahead 30 seconds button. It's running at this time.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it goes all the way back to the 50s.
Okay.
If anyone press skip ahead 30 seconds right there, we should have them come back into something. So then, like, they're just arm deep inside me at this point. That was about 30 seconds. That'll work. Yeah, welcome back for all those spoilers. God, I hope someone's listening. No, where are we? I got myself all kinds of off track. Making stakes. Their crisis of faith.
The crisis of faith making stakes then, yeah.
It's just another crisis of faith. Like, we've had 3 of these in this chapter at this point, and
it's a take turns. It's a hot potato game. Someone's going to have a crisis of faith. Someone else will be the one that saves them, and then they'll have a crisis of faith later, and someone else will talk them into it.
Yep.
We'll see it later when Mark turns into a ball of jelly, and Ben has to get him in on it.
it's Cody's time.
Yeah.
Cody leads it. Ben jumps in a little bit, then pulls him out of it. And we get I believe we had this once before where Cody, like, after the blue chalk thing, had a flash of, like, almost a thought, but not quite. It slipped away.
Isn't, like, one of the key elements of their feeling bad is that there's just too many people. Like, the time we'd have to spend here to kill them is ridiculous. Yep. Months, years. We don't know how long it would take to hunt them all down. It was just...
Yeah. And then we get another flash, and I think this one's from, like, the 3 lights lined up when he's looking back at Ben. Because the plan at this point... I want to remind you that last episode, Matt yelled at them for a good section about, yo, you can't split up. Do not split up. Never split up. And that was immediately reinforced by losing Father Callahan. So, next morning, they go, they make steaks. And they're like, this is going to take too long. Let's split up.
Jimmy and Mark, you all can go out, spot the vampires, put a mark of some clay shit or something. They have a little discussion about whether or not the vampires would spot it. They say it doesn't matter. They'll do it quick enough. Runs around and just mark buildings. Is there a vampire hidden somewhere in here? Blah.
Yeah, it's basically like, don't go kill things. I don't want... We split up, and if one of us dies, Matt's going to be so mad at us. We can't let that happen. No one dies, so just mark them. My God. Have none of you ever read a Stephen King book?
And in the middle of this is when Matt dies, right?
Yep.
Somewhere in the middle of their digging around, yeah.
Yeah, it's...
Well, basically cut back to Matt waking up to someone, the student, some student.
Yeah, it was an older
student
student of his. We get... I don't think we even got the student's name, but we got, like...
It was one of 2 names. His name, it was a name that sounded the same. It was like Hartford or Hadford. It was some name where it was like a letter off. And he couldn't quite recall.
And it was basically a excuse for Matt to tell a story from a book he'd been reading about a town where just everyone disappeared. And
to maybe think Barlow had been there at some point.
Yeah. Without him just talking to himself and sounding crazy. That's what this was.
Because the whole time they keep pointing out the kids, doesn't care. He's just out of respectfully listening. He couldn't give a shit. He's not interested. And then Matt gets a horrible pain in his left side in the middle of a sentence.
Yep. His finger's still pointing at the town.
Yeah, and then Matt internally goes, "Oh, it's happening. It's happening. Not like this, boys. It's happening." And then just has a heart attack. Nurse gets called. The kid who was watching yells for her. She runs in, goes, "Okay, you need to get out of here," and then mentions a comment about how she regretted her half-eaten lunch.
Yep. I gotta say, Matt, why are you not wary of visitors? Why did you allow this visitor in your room? Like, it didn't end up being your demise, but they had to have heard about, crazy lady with guns storming the hospital. They predicted things like that were going to happen. The whole, they can't come out during the day, but they can hypnotize someone with a gun to do it. And you're going to let...
Like this student I'm talking to right now.
Yeah. Worst Helsing ever.
No, exactly. This is just another moment, like mentioning earlier. There's this huge shit.
No one's clever.
Like Barlow
both
only
sides think the other is clever.
Yeah,
it's real good. It's like You've got enough experience. Like, I'm just gonna ostracize most of our listeners here. I think you've had enough experience to get a bit of this. It's like hearing two people who've just recently got into programming, and they both think they know so much, and they're just both talking to each other and bullshitting each other. You're both just making up bullshit, but neither of you is confident enough in your knowledge to call the other out. This is awesome. But, like, if you took that and somehow made it not enjoyable.
Oh, yeah, because it's that thing, programming is great, and this kind of works the same way, because it's something that's already logical. So sophistry works perfectly on it. And so it's like...
Yeah.
And I've read all of Dracula and all these other little folklore books, and then they go and act like a bunch of complete fucking idiots. And then Barlow's utterly underwhelming.
Like, I honestly think Barlow is, like, a narcissist with average intelligence.
Also, why do all the powers of vampires seem to be executed by everyone but Barlow? Barlow hypnotizes, but where's the misting out of here? Where's this changing into a rat? Where's the turning into a bat? He's actually the most underwhelming of all of them.
We're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Quick couple scenes that happened before house. All three of them are dead, or vamp dead, and underneath the trailer.
Yeah.
They... Creepy scene, walk through, it smells like shit. Specifically, vampires have a very distinct musky odor.
Yes, which we get rammed with at every moment from now on.
They pull out the Randy, the dad.
Yeah.
Because both of them were like, I don't want to touch an infant. And their whole thing here was to pull him out into the sun to see if the sun would just kill him. And it didn't.
It doesn't just kill, it seems to be damaging them, and then they're kind of so grossed out that they push the body back in.
Yeah, and then just relock it. Mark it. And I gotta say, if part of this plan was like, hey, mark them, so if we don't, we can try to get as many of them as we can at once, I hope he doesn't remember when he wakes up. Like, maybe he doesn't, but like, it ends up not mattering. But if they had done their thing according to plan,
this vampire gets up at night and goes, "Why is my leg scorched?"
Yeah,
I think they found us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was good. They jump from that to the next door neighbor, Evans. They're one of the people who've been mentioned occasionally in the background, but we've never gotten a scene on them. And the whole point of that was just to walk through and for Cody to have his big revelation. We got this weird, like, memory flash, like, 3 lights in a row, blue chalk. My God, I've put it all together. And then we see Matt die.
yeah, there we go, yeah. So, I think it jumps to somewhere, and then he tells us, because it's the launch of a chapter where he suddenly goes.
We jump to Matt dying, and then it's Jimmy and Mark on like talking about. I think they're on their way to the boarding house at this point, and that's where he's explaiing what he was thinking through.
Okay, so Matt dies, boarding house, because point this out, he has the revelation that the chalk. I believe it was in our last chunk where Ava, whatever her name was, went down, talked about how the thing was her husband's, ding, all the lights go on. She
has the pool table because he and Mark have a quick conversation, like, but there's no like pool halls in town. He wouldn't be out of town, and that's when he's like, but Ava's been hiding that pool thing.
She can't throw it away because it was the one thing. So they head there for that reason,
and then. Just have it's the worst decision. It's like, okay, I know we're split up and we're running real low on time.
But there is time, so why not go do this?
I was like, why didn't you just go get Ben? Like,
which I believe Mark even makes a comment. I think it's what Mark keeps saying, like, why don't we get Ben? And Jimmy's just like, we don't have the time. We don't have the time. We can do it now.
Yeah, because, like, to jump through here, like, they go here, they do some stuff. Mark leaves, goes, gets Ben. They then go do more prep, then come back and still have time. Why did Cody just like, I know we split up, but let's just dive right in. We found Barlow. Let's just go kill him. Like, why are they not getting Ben? There isn't a good reason at all, ever.
And now we're just approaching the slapstick level event right here. So basically, they get to the house, they get in. They immediately know Barlow's here. They feel it.
And they smell that stank.
They get to the door, which is where they smell it the strongest and suspect he's clearly going to be under, like, below. They pop the door open but can't see anything at first.
To the cellar.
Jimmy tells Mark to find some source of light, and then for some reason, because this is why this pisses me off, it's not... So basically what happens is, because it's trying to reveal it in some amusing way, Mark goes and fishes for a flashlight in the kitchen or something.
Yeah, he eventually finds one, like, I think a cabinet in the hall or something. I don't know. He finds a flashlight.
And then he comes back and looks towards the cellar door at the same time, essentially, he hears a scream.
Yep.
And that's sort of how that section ends. Does it immediately pick up after that, or does it do some weird onto someone else and then come back?
It jumps from there to Mark running out of the house as fast as he can. Right. He has blood all over him.
Yep.
He gets in Ben's car.
He dropped the flashlight.
He gets in Ben's car, and he just fucking books it.
Yeah, he has a little moment of, can I drive? I don't care. Gets in the car, and then books it to Ben.
And from there, when he gets in the next section, when he gets to Ben, that's when we get the explanation of what happened.
Barlow, in this infinite tactical wisdom, and then the infinite tactical wisdom of Jimmy, decided to make one of the steps on the way down to the cellar sort of loose and blank out.
No, not quite.
Because it made it sound like it was the second or third, because it says it's the second or third.
It's from the second on.
Yeah.
There was only one step.
Yeah, it was taking advantage of it being in the dark.
They just cut off the rest of the steps.
What makes this trap so stupid? Well, I mean, it's cheesy because he literally just puts a bunch of knives face up like a pitfall trap.
Yeah, he sticks them through like plywood.
And so he just falls on the thing of knives like Indiana Jones style. But what makes this particularly stupid is if you're going into a house to kill a vampire, I'm not saying he should have expected the blades on the steps. I'm saying, why in your right mind would you even dabble in going down the steps without light? Jimmy just immediately decides, hey, can you get me light before I head down here? Well, while he's getting the light, why don't I just take a couple of steps?
He's taking so fucking long, that fucking kid.
Yeah, I'm just going to take 2 or 3 steps down and see what happens. Yep. It was so stupid.
It's stupid on both people's account. Because, like,
it's
on
a trap
Barlow's
that
side,
if he thought these people were intelligent at all, he should think wouldn't work. And then they're actually so damn dumb, they fall for it.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's 2 idiots fighting each other.
Exactly.
Like, okay, your trap is entirely destroyed by any source of illumination.
Exactly. If he had in any way just opened the door, aimed a flashlight down the steps, he'd see it was there.
If he had waited 15 seconds,
this entire goofy ass moment is dependent on Jimmy going, why don't I ignore the reason why I sent Mark to get a light and just nosedive down there to see what happens?
Because they broke the lights to the basement, like they did at the Marston house.
But yeah, so that occurs when Ben and Mark meet back up.
You find out that
Ben kind of doesn't believe him for a second, but
Mark fell down there as well. And he avoided the blades because of... Wait, how did he get down there? No, he didn't fall down.
No.
Right.
It was like a...
Cody warned him. He almost fell down.
Yeah. Because he does that whole, like, get out kind of thing before he dies. Yeah.
Oh, we have to talk about Ben's last... God damn it. We have to talk about Matt's last words. Or last thought. I don't remember which one was, but no one important was there to hear it, which was, watch your step.
Oh, God, yeah.
Which is why I think this book is just like him workshopping the concept of The Shining.
That's super valid.
Yep.
I mean, the amount of times that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah. The whole, like, fate, destiny thing.
Yeah, I remember when we were wondering where... Because it's not even just the pool table we're given insight to, because she thinks something weird's behind that cellar door. Ava does. Mm-hmm. We think it's the one dude, but it's actually possibly Barlow.
Yeah.
We mentioned this happening in Carrie, where the thing's given away, but Carrie was actually an interesting enough adventure where you still were fine with the thing. This is a book doing the exact same thing. You know, you were told everything that's going to happen, but you're like, no, this was not that fun of an adventure.
Yeah.
You tell us, then it happens. You tell us, then it happens.
Yeah.
With some interesting writing scattered throughout, because there are some interesting parts.
Yeah, there's some good bits. The spook notes, this one would be tough, though.
Yeah.
Do you think this book would be better if the main character was Wishbone? No, it'd be horrible.
That'd be a hilarious episode, though.
Yeah.
Wishbone does the Salem's Lot.
Oh, God. Oh, Cujo.
There we go.
Perfect. Cool.
So what do they do when Ben and Mark are together? What do Ben and Mark do once they're together? And they're in the car?
They head off to the gas station.
Right.
Our next scene is them pulling into the gas station. he uses the phone in the gas station, asks the guy to fill it up, gets his car filled up for $3. Yeah. I'm real angry about that. Like,
this is actually funny. We just watched the Conjuring, or the newest Annabelle Animal Comes Home thing, and that takes place in an older setting, and on the wall behind them was eggs for 35 cents, and I pointed it out to Tabby, and she just seethed.
That's fair. 5-cent root beers.
Yeah.
10 cent now. They went up. And I'm going to point out that we're at a gas station a little bit later, because I have a lot of ranting to do about how chronically underprepared
There's a slightly
this team
weird
is.
interaction here too, where the guy who pumps their tank is also the guy who, I think, isn't it the guy who actually owns the station, but no one else is coming in.
Yeah.
They tell you a little blurb about him, like he did something, accomplished something. It's one of those King just giving a little bit of like detail to someone.
I blocked it out of my mind because I want to be done.
But yeah, they go to the gas station. The call
is to find out that Matt's dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
They call in, blah, blah, blah. Do you want me to get you Jimmy? Funny enough. They ask if you want to wait until Cody comes.
There is a real good moment when Mark's like, is he dead? And Ben's like, how'd you know? He's like, your face, bro.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that on your face. It was clear. You had that our Helsing's dead look.
I believe this is...
And it was...
I believe it's right after that where we immediately bump into Mark's first I'm going to lose myself moment, actually, when Matt dies.
Yeah.
Because Mark does the whole, like, I can't do it, anything at all, I'm completely done, no more.
Yeah, for the rest of this, that's Mark.
That's Mark, yeah.
Up
until the door when they go in and Ben has to, like, I need you, bro, him enough times that he finally goes.
Yeah. So... once again, pointing out that Cody clearly had the time to go get Ben. They then stop at the church to do some more preparation.
Which they noticed the knob warped from when Father Callahan touched it and it scolded him.
Yep.
But, which Mark obviously notices, not Ben.
And this is where we talked about, a little bit before, his assistant, which I can't remember her name, to be honest.
Oh, the housekeeper?
The housekeeper,
yeah.
right.
So what they do is they take the vials and bottles that Jimmy had in his little medical bag, and they dump out all the stuff, and they actually are going to the church to fill this all with holy water. They go in. Ben tells them that it's a perfectly reasonable idea to douse your face and hands in this while you're at it. And Mark's like, isn't that sacrilege? And he's like, no, not for this instance. And so while they're in the process of bathing themselves...
we are above God's law.
Yeah, well,
how could this be sacrilege?
So while they're bathing themselves in the... basically something that looks like a bird bath...
Here, swallow this rosary so your insides taste bad.
Yeah. The housekeeper, Father Callahan, stands up and turns around and notices them and asks them what the hell they're doing.
Like, what the fuck, dude? You can't do that.
And they basically go, oh, who are you? Father Callahan. And you get this basically back and forth where they kind of get out of her that she believed that Father Callahan wanted to be greater than what he was limited to, and that he thought he wasn't enough to stamp in the last father's shoes, but in fact... those shoes were too small for him. This woman just loved Father Callahan.
We got a great little bit where she says something along the lines of like, and I know he drank. What Irish priest doesn't, I can't remember there, but
dabble the bottle or some weird term.
It's like any Irish priest that doesn't hit the bottle isn't worth his salt or something along that line. Like, if you're Irish and a priest, you have to drink or God hates you.
And then she has this like proud declaration of, Father Callahan was a priest. Not some, and I forget the phrase, so it takes a lot of the pow out of it, but it's like, she basically states he was an actual priest, not some diddly-daller, town useless guy.
This is an important one.
Yeah, you can...
It's 46, section 46, if you're reading along
It should
at
be
home.
in bold text. It should be pretty easy to find, because I think she shouts it.
Not some holy alderman.
Yeah. So basically, not some, stand-in. She's just all about it. So obviously, that's the contrast I was mentioning that was irritating. You're given evidence that the people closest to him thought he was utterly passionate, while we know that Callahan's actually a broken man off to the side. But basically how this plays out here is that when they do that, she kind of leaves the door open to let them take advantage of the position she's holding. She basically goes, are you doing Callahan's work? All right. So is what you're doing now what Callahan was working on? Sure. And am I probably never going to see Callahan again? We don't know. Well, I guess if you're doing what Callahan wanted you to do, have at it. And she turns around, heads back down the aisle.
I want to read her line from that. It's, then be about it. What are you waiting for?
Yeah. And then she heads down
snapped at them.
Yeah. And then she heads down the aisle and sits back down. They finish their little thing, fill all their little bottles, and then they head out.
And then, God, this is where
we're almost at Super Saiyan Ben.
We're at what I think was supposed to be the climax.
Yeah.
So they're back at Ava's. Mark has a bit of a breakdown. I can't do this.
In the car, full-blown temper tantrum.
Yep. There's a bit there where it's like, okay, cool. Where's the flashlight? He's like, it's with Jimmy. And at this point, I'm like, why the fuck do you only have one flashlight, dude? Seriously, you were just at a gas station.
Yeah, this was your gas station thing. Why didn't they buy like 2, 3? They could buy 50 for backup.
Yeah.
They could have.
What? They have done so many. They drove across town to buy roses, and they picked up a flashlight, a hammer. There's 3 of them. Why did they not have 3 of each minimum?
The hammer will come back up again as a "whoa, where is it?" moment again. Of course.
Have they ever had a thing they needed?
No.
And how much of their prep have they ever actually used? Like,
it's almost as if Mark was the rational one, and then he had to be reduced to a blubbering fool to give them a reason to never have anything rationally happen.
Yep. They go in. We get another. Just, you know what? I will give Stephen King a lot of credit on this. I swear to God that I can smell the things he describes that you're smelling. He's real good at like olfactory writing. I don't know what you do with that.
Well, that / sort of beating you over the head with a concept enough that it actually wears on you, I guess the same way it wears on the characters. I'm imagining they're sick of smelling this fucking vampire smell.
Yeah.
I'm sick of reading about this vampire smell.
Yeah, it's... they get down to... They manage to overcome this super clever trap with a piece of wood that they actually don't explain it. They just say they used a piece of wood to climb down.
You get the impression that like Ben sort of shimmy / hangs the right way and drops, and then he actually reaches up and just kind of helps Ben down fairly easily.
Mm-hmm.
Mark once again has to do his I can't look. Ben like gets him up off the knives, flips him over.
Yeah, Cody got fucked.
Yeah, I think he said he got stabbed 6 times.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, Mark knew exactly how many, I think, when he's asked.
I mean, when your best friend that you've known for a day gets stabbed 6 times with a knife, you count it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're also, while doing this, keeping a mental countdown to sunset in 10 minutes. Their priorities are shit.
Yeah. So, picks him up off of it, gets the hammer, the flashlight, everything off of him, sort of sets him aside away from the trap. And then they kind of go... Where the hell is he? And then we get Mark's shining power that isn't called the Shining yet, where he points over at a...
It was a super fancy armoire. I think it was like, this is definitely from the Straker store.
Yeah, what about that? And then they kind of go up to it and go, well, it's not... I don't see anything funny. And then it's apparently stupidly heavy, so they decide to just push it over. And what do you know? That cellar of a cellar door is there... And Mark goes huzzah, not literally, but that's how he acts about it.
Yep.
And then they run into the issue of trying to get the padlock off of it. They take the hammer, I believe.
There was an axe on the wall.
Before the axe, because he fails, and then he gets the axe and blesses it, basically. Because they try it and they realize it's shit. And he's like, we're not going to be stopped by a $5 padlock, are we?
Right.
Then he rummages around and finds an axe with a guard on it.
Yes.
Pulls the guard off. I guess believes that padlocks are easier to break if you're blessing the axe.
Because he pours some fucking holy water
douses it in holy water, gets it all over his hands, and then what can only be described as just straight fucking magic proceeds to swing on the lock.
I'd say Kaioken 5.
Yeah.
He hacks through the door.
Oh, yeah. He hacks through the door,
frankly,
right. Because
I could hack through any padlock with an axe. What?
So he starts going through the door, and as this is occurring, the axe lights up with glowing fire. His hands light up with glowing fire. It describes him as swinging with no effort. His endurance is infinite at this point. This power is not Christian, explicitly. It is a primordial creation power that was used to form things in the early day, blah. You know, this is good in its or base form.
Yep.
Mark stares at him in wonder. It's so amazing, this man. Because as he's doing this, he just lights up more.
Yep.
It describes it working up his body. By the end, he's Super Saiyan. He's glowing full-blown holy fire. beating just to carve this door in. And I think when it describes him as finally swinging and hitting only air, does he realize he's done with the door? But he's just like flowing with purpose, and Mark is ogling it. It's
and
a
then
weird
immediately,
moment.
like, Mark's like, I'm not going in.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
Mark
of course, again.
Another freak out.
Yeah.
And this one I wanted to bring up specifically because it was a little weird, because I know this is a callback to the prologue, like the end of the prologue.
Yeah.
Ben this whole time has been telling Mark, like, no, we have to do this together. Mark at no point is like, I'm sorry, why? It's the same concept, the same thing I had issue with when Matt tells Ben, you have to be the one to kill Barlow and Susan. It's been so long since I've cared about her. People keep just proclaiming things as fact. But he convinces him to go through the door by being like, I love you. And then they step back.
That's not even the I love you thing isn't even necessarily the trick, because that sort of moment thing is sort of mixed with the all moment, because what made that moment so weird is that he where is it? Let me pull it up. Yeah, it's not. He doesn't even like lose it or anything. There, he dealt the door a final blow and slung the axe away. He held his hands up before his eyes. They blazed. He held them out to Mark, and the boy flinched. I love you, Ben said. They clasped hands. It wasn't to calm him. It was literally just this weird moment where he's like, ha, ha, ha. All right, Mark, I love you. And then they just come with me. I was like, what? What was that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm
mixing this.
Is this like Holy Paladin Ben, and this is the moment of
this is his Paylor transformation?
Yeah. So he takes him in. They go in. You see Barlow's thing. The emblem on it has a cold glow to it.
We see a bunch of the other town folk vampires, which I've updated all this shit. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. There's a bunch of people laying on the ground dead, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They get to the coffin. They are not sure what to do, and then Ben's like, "Let's take this out." And then they realize the coffin weighs as much as a sheet of paper.
Yep.
Like Mark touches it and goes, "I could pick this up with one hand."
They got with good shining force.
Yeah. So they even say it feels good as if fate's in our favor, and you're like, what? So they drag it out and they pop it open. They keep pointing out that they look up through the light coming down from the cellar door to notice about when it's at.
Yeah, we keep getting like flashes to roughly what time it is.
It's getting dark. I believe when they actually have the coffin pulled near there and they've popped it, they call it like perfectly half.
Right.
It's equally dark as it is light outside.
And this is when he realizes, oh shit, I forgot the hammer.
So he asks for it. I think it has Mark like try to grab for it to give it to him, but then this is when Barlow realizes he's won kind of behavior, looks over, yells at Mark not to look him in the eyes. He does. Barlow hypnotizes Mark to go attack Ben by going to get the pistol that was in Jimmy's pocket.
Right.
Grabs the pistol. They wrestle over it. It grazes Ben's temple before he finally just knocks the shit out of Mark.
And then that shot like wakes up the other vampires. We start having them wake up a bit.
Yeah, and the gun, I think he punches him. The gun drops. Mark goes to dive for it again. He hits him one more time. That seems to have worked. He kicks the gun away. It breaks
him out of the mesmerizing a
sort
little
of.
bit.
He does in a second. At first, he's just out, and then he goes and gets the hammer, and then he goes and gets ready to do something about it. But at this point, the way this scene describes, you're actually kind of confused with positioning.
Yeah, it's
because
pretty floaty.
Yeah, so like
it's very theater of the mind.
Barlow sits up, and then what is it? What is it that sends Ben over to out of position? Like he grabs the hammer, and then I think he has to head a little away because he leaps at.
So I thought he went to get the hammer off Cody's body.
Yeah. Is it that where he's just leaping from? That's what I'm saying. The positioning of how everything is kind of odd. I don't really. It's hard to describe because when I read it, it's just the actions, but the spacing's weird.
Yeah. He didn't have the hammer yet. He doesn't have the hammer until after the fight with Mark.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So he's fought Mark. He's knocked Mark out.
Then he runs back to get the hammer off Jimmy,
and then leaps from there. Is that how that's?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I thought there was some sort of movement before that little, because Barlow tries to hypnotize him, and Ben just goes, hurrah, and just kind of like tries to man mode through it and leap at him.
He puts a stake in him.
Yeah. This is the part I thought was weird too. He leaps at him and nails the heart dead on point in one leap.
Yep.
Nails it, proceeds to then slowly drive it in as you get the description of his writhing. And then we get the statement repeatedly said by Barlow, "Let me go."
Yeah.
And I don't understand what that's meant to convey. Like, that's not what I would imagine an evil presence saying to something that is trying to kill me.
Right.
Like, let me go is something you say when you're, like, in the vulnerable position and asking for pity. Like, let me go, which is, like, for a second I was like, is this going to imply that, like, Barlow's death will have a more negative effect than his existence? I thought I was being played with. But I don't get that impression afterwards.
And then we get about a page and a half describing how Barlow dies.
We simplest answer, imagine a body losing itself layer by layer. The
Yep.
skin comes off, then the muscle, then we're down to some of the fleshier features under. It slowly withers down to it's just bone wearing clothing.
If you imagine, like, Buffy style, but with a good special effects budget, I think, like, they would have gotten that.
Stopping at bone.
Yeah.
Everything turns to dust but the bones. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got the hordes of other vampires.
Everyone suddenly stands up, like a little mob.
And then a blast of sound energy from Barlow when he dies that rattles all the building.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which I still don't understand. I read it twice. There's just a blast of sound energy that, like, rattles the windows. Pretty certain that wasn't actually explained.
And then basically Mark is kind of out of it, but gets up. During this little encounter, you do hear him go like, "Mommy, where am I?"
Yeah,
so he seems to be really
broken.
out of it. Yeah.
He's pretty broken at this
But
point.
basically, Ben tells him to get the hell up. We need to get out of here. And then weirdly, it describes that Ben is forced to go on by being slapped on the ass. This was another one of those weird moments. It actually states Mark is instigated to go by being slapped on the ass.
Right.
But so Mark gets pushed up to the stairs. Then Ben kind of pulls himself up to the floor, and they jump in the car.
And they find out the vampires can't touch them.
Yeah.
Because they douse themselves in holy water.
And they both get in the car and book it.
Yep. They just fucking fuck off.
Yeah.
They're out of here.
That is the end of the chapter.
That is the end of the chapter. Alex, most important question. Your thoughts? I don't have an orange. I ate all the oranges, so it felt disingenuous to just offer you an orange without holding one in my hand.
Right, I can understand that, yeah.
I mean, we could have fooled everyone listening, but it would have felt wrong.
No, I understand.
So, Alex, would you like a tomato?
No.
It's just for me. That joke was just for me. What are your thoughts on this section? Any opinions?
I thought
Positive, negative in general.
I thought everything in it was going to be cooler than it was.
Yep.
That's the best way you can describe it is disappointing.
Yeah.
Beating Barlow was disappointing. The 4D chess that ended up apparently being 1D chess because it was just...
I mean, I think
it was a linear
playing
line of
checkers and one was
stupidity.
playing, like, fucking racquetball.
Checkers might even giving them too much credit. It was as if they were just... You know that game you could play on the... at the
Crossfire.
During recess where it was just the ball and the pole and you just bat it back and forth.
tetherball?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all they were doing. They were playing tetherball. They were smacking a ball back and forth until one of them got hit in the face and lost.
Yeah. Pacing. This whole book.
Oh yeah.
Pacing. There's great bits. And it would actually be a lot less frustrating if it was just trash through and through. There are great bits. Like I've been trying to point out, like, I love this part.
Next thing, when we get to the next section, I'll not spoil anything, but I will admit that I read a little ahead, and it's annoying because it's better.
Yeah.
It's a tiny little smidgen of the story, but it's actually better than a good chunk of what we've read.
As someone who has not read it yet, I'm very excited about that. But we kind of saw this coming, because, like, after part 2 ended where it did, I was just like, it's only going to go downhill from here because it's a Stephen King. Picture of Carrie.
I will throw out here, because we are so near the end, even though we only have one more chapter in the epilogue, I get the very strong impression that this book spawned out of an end game, not... I think the prologue is the end because I think the end of this setting is his idea first. I think King thought of an apocalyptically run-over vampire town and what the after and the formatting of the book. The prologue is the ending. You're immediately given evidence of what's already happened. So this story is everything you need to know to ultimately be where he wanted you to be to begin with. Like it almost feels like this book could have been written with the anticipation of writing a vampire hunter book in which Ben later becomes a vampire hunter or something. So it's so weird how it's...
What if this had been formatted more like what I originally guessed it was going to be when we were talking about, like, part 1 was going to be set up.
Part 3 was after the prologue.
Yeah, it was going to be part 2. They fight back, achieve something.
Excluding, if that was done but terribly written.
Right.
I think that would have been better. I think it actually would have fulfilled, weirdly, it would have fulfilled, what King was trying to convey better. Because it would have condensed the town, leaving far less pointless fluff and backdrop. We would have gotten to the apocalyptic moment sooner, which would have made it feel more epic. Because I think the problem with this book is that you're told everything's doomed for most of the book.
Right.
There's no tension building and then exploding. It's tension, and then you're made accustomed to it for chapter after chapter. That would have escalated faster. And then I think it would have gotten to the survival element that I think he tried to forcibly plug into part 3. Part 3 is a survival story. But it's a survival story before Barlow's beaten.
Right.
What would have actually might have been more interesting is if part 2 ended with Barlow, and then part 3 would have been dealing with a town completely overrun by vampires, survival story.
Right.
We could have seen just make the whole town a story backdrop, but make it creepily unfold, as in the back. Then don't just lay it all out. Like have the lot scenes and leave us wondering who might be turned, who's been influenced.
Give us some red herrings.
Even red herrings, even cliffhang some of them. We know we're going to come back to them. We know. So it's not really cliffhanger, but you can leave that suspense for me until I come back to that character. What this story did was just keep hacking. It just kept boom vampire, boom dead. You blasted through this town.
Yep.
At breakneck speed to get to a point where Barlow's just dropped by a leaping, shouting man with a stake.
Yeah, so, all we ever saw Barlow do was mesmerize people, bite people. He cracked Mark's Head's parents together. He made Callahan sad, and he got staked.
And imagine if you just took one, because not all vampire stuff heavily emphasizes the hypnotic theme. Take hypnotizing out of this book, and what is this book? One vampire power, remove it. What is even in this book? It's nothing. It falls apart completely. The entire premise of this entire... which I think is another problem with it. The vampires never felt intimidating authentically.
Right.
It was as if they were vampires in character, but the entity that could have been spooking this town, because of the way it was formatted, it could have been any entity you could have imagined.
Yep.
It didn't have to be vampires. It could have been aliens. It could have been creepy ink monsters. It could have been Man-Thing, because the way it decided to interact with the town, because I think what he wanted to do was have this backdrop effect occur.
Right.
But half of their vampire qualities were... every quality that makes them scary as a vampire was often used as a way to just go, that's weird. Like, oh, Stryker picked up that incredibly heavy thing for no reason.
Stryker was human.
Yeah. Like, or this thing must have weighed a bajillion pounds. No wonder a vampire picked it up. Okay. But why do the vampires now seem so pathetic when they're actually engaged with anyone? Why is it always reduced down to, just going to hypnotize you?
Yeah. I'm going
to hypnotize you.
We've been told...
And if I have any faith at all and I can hold 2 freaking sticks together, I can beat you. Like, we were given a threat that appeared like the equipment needed to beat it was actually insanely easy.
Right.
And no one bothered to follow through. Like, imagine if this town believed earlier this were vampires. Ben could have been like, we're under vampires. And the town's like, sure, we'll believe you. Everyone grab a cross. You all believe in God, right? Yeah, pretty much. Okay, follow me. Hey,
Yep.
Barlow. And then they just stake him and kill him. Like, I get that ultimately means that Barlow's success was dependent on being insidious and slowly corrupting the town. But by the end of the story, we're given a man a vampire was an idiot.
Yep.
Like,
you know what scene we totally skipped? The sheriff. In part of their prep, they stopped by...
Oh, yeah, because this scene was obnoxious.
Yeah, they stopped by the sheriff's office just to jump back real quick to try and get Parkins to help. They run to Parkins and they're like, hey, can we tell you what's been going on? And Parkins is like, oh, yeah, it's vampires. I'm leaving. Like, what? He's like, I think he uses the phrase, I quit the lawn.
Yeah.
Which I loved.
He's like, I left my badge and my gun on the table or on my desk or something, and I'm out of here. All my stuff's packed. I'm getting out of here tonight, going to my sister's house.
You want to come with?
And then, come with. Yeah. And he's like, Nolly, Last time I heard from him, he went up to the Marston house and he probably got turned. He'd make a good vampire. Like, you're dealing with a man that just has the weirdest acceptance of everything going on. And this is the same guy, by the way, that the last time we saw him, he said he was scared shitless.
Yep.
So he just apparently, after being scared shitless, has spent the past still couple of days standing out on the curb smoking cigarettes, knowing he was going to leave because this town's done for.
So, yeah, he offers them a riot gun. And,
because Nolly bought it, even knowing there's no bank.
They don't take it. I was actually kind of hoping they'd like load a stake in that shit and just like, let's do it.
That's the thing with this whole story. It tries to be so cliche with all this Dracula referencing, but then it's not cliche at all with any vampire hunting stuff.
Yep.
Where was any clever, creative thing by the gang to do something? It would have been cool to see a trap set for a vampire. It would have been cool to see them find an interesting way to use garlic on someone. Like, we were given a vampire story where the vampires sat around poking fun at people, and then the humans sat around crying, moping, bitching,
and doing shopping for things they didn't use,
and patting each other on the back because they thought that if they sing Kumbaya loud enough, they'd get through it.
Yep. God, we were running long, so let's do the board real quick.
And we haven't even done the 51 and epilogue. Wait till we go and tear into once we know the real ending.
Yeah, yep. I feel like next episode is gonna be real ranty, but going through the board real quick. A quick clarification because we discussed this. If someone is ambiguously, like, if it's not certain that they have turned into a vampire, we're counting them as dead. Like the bus driver. We're pretty sure he's dead, so we're going to count him as dead unless he shows back up clearly as a vampire later.
Right.
So we're having to guess, and we're going to lean towards dead on the ones where it's
dead unless proven vampire.
Yep.
Innocent until proven guilty.
So what we got new is the McDougals are both definitely vampires because we were pretty sure on Sandy, but I hadn't marked them yet. Neither of us got any points on that.
Oh, yeah.
Weasel Craig is a vampire, so neither of us got any points on that.
Yeah.
Ava is. Neither of us got any. We did not do well.
This was so random.
Yep.
Like, I think we were trying to be creative with it, but holy, it's just...
both the Griffin kids.
they're vampires.
I got 2 points on that.
The Howl, yeah.
And a couple more people dead, blah, blah. But yeah, I think the only thing scored here, we're now at 5 and 5. Someone died that we both got points on. Someone up there. I'll post pictures. It's fine.
I think we have 3 left to figure out by the end so far.
There are several people we're not sure on, but there are only 3 left on the board that we differ on. Nolly, who... I can't see those colors. Was I blue or green?
Where's Nolly?
You're green.
Yeah, I'm green.
Under far left, third down. Or second from the bottom. It's like...
Oh, is his name covered?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so that was the one where you said vampire and I said dead.
Right.
For Nolly.
So... Parkins thinks he's a vampire, but we haven't seen him show back up yet.
Dead,
so we're not sure yet.
As of now, yeah.
So you might... So there's still points there. Mabel Wirtz, which you said survive, I said dead.
Yeah.
And Ben Mears, which I'm not going to go into the terrible lack of logic behind that decision why I guessed he might die. And you said he'd survive.
Yeah. So those should be the last 3 we figure.
Yeah, but other than that, we were the same on them. So next time we'll know who won that Serious Man trophy.
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, that's the real cherry on this.
Right.
Book, but if I'm the serious man, it was worth it.
That's true. And if I'm not, I quit. And I'll delete it all. So next time we want to wrap it all up into the epilogue.
It'll be chapter 1, chapter 51
pages.
and the epilogue, yeah. So one last chapter in the epilogue. It's super small.
In my copy of the book, it is literally 20 pages.
Yeah.
So, anything else?
No.
I think this is the part where we awkwardly stare at each other to like, signal. It's weird because like I cut out a little bit of that silence when we stare, and we clearly don't talk, so I don't have to edit as much. But I have to edit either way.
Right.
So, unless I just draw attention to it and make it part of the bit.
Right.
And it's fine. And it's fine. And until next time, you've read the book. Yeah. An orange?
No.
Hole in the Wall Book Club is a part of the Icynewyear Productions Network. and produced and edited by Anthony Sheets. The music in this episode is Supernatural Radio by Kevin MacLeod. There'll be a link to his license and website in the show notes. If you want to get a hold of us, tweet us at Icynewyear or send an email to icynewyear@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to tell a friend or leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice. Word of mouth and 5-star reviews really help us get out in front of more people and let us expand and do more things. More information on the show can be found on icynewyear.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.